All the gifts my boyfriend gave me were fake, but when we broke up, he suddenly produced receipts for the genuine items and sued me in court. In my previous life, I lost the lawsuit and was saddled with $2 million in debt. Afterwards, my ex-boyfriend and his new girlfriend posted my story online, not only calling me a homewrecker but also portraying me as an out-and-out gold digger. That's when I found out he already had a girlfriend. The real deal was all in her hands. This incident caused a major uproar online, turning me into a target of public condemnation. My parents desperately tried to seek justice for me, but were humiliated daily, eventually dying in an accident. I too could no longer bear the blows and passed away prematurely. The boyfriend and his girlfriend became internet celebrities because of this, earning a fortune. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my boyfriend first gave me a gift. Late, look what I bought for you. At this moment, my boyfriend Zhou is holding a high-quality replica of a Chanel bag, offering it to me with great attentiveness. I know you girls love handbags the most, darling. Even though I can't afford a real one for you right now, the high-quality replicas aren't cheap either. In his previous life, he did exactly this, bought the genuine item for his girlfriend Sunu Anyuan, but picked up a high-quality fake from his relative who worked as a reseller to give to me. I knew these bags were all fake, so I accepted them without any suspicion. Unbeknownst to her, he had already purchased the genuine item at the counter and given it to Sunu Anyuan, while keeping the receipt as evidence to falsely accuse me, so that one day in court, I would be forced to compensate him for the real product. Seeing that I remained unmoved, he spoke up cautiously. Darling, I know you don't care whether the bag is real or fake, you only care about the thought behind it, right? You wouldn't be like my former gold-digging ex-girlfriend, who knew this bag was a high-quality fake and refused to take it, would you? His tone was thick with grievance. This is his usual tactic. Once, whenever we ordered a slightly more expensive meal, he would excuse himself by saying he was tight on money lately, using that pitiful tone to make me treat him instead. Baby, you're not going to be upset just because I asked you to treat me to a meal, are you? Not like my ex-girlfriends who were all gold diggers. I knew my baby loves me the most. He was right. There was a time when I truly loved him the most, could overlook everything, and even felt sorry for him every time he ended up with a gold digger. Looking back, any real gold digger would have seen right through him. He was just trying to smear her reputation. In my previous life, even though the bags he gave me were all fake, I still loved and cherished them deeply, often wiping them carefully after each use, keeping them in pristine condition until the day I went to court. But this became evidence for his criticism of me. He accused me in court, if you knew these bags were fake, why did you keep them in such good condition? Isn't it just about knowing that what I gave you is real? You're just saying these are fakes to make a quick profit. Society is messed up because of women like you who only care about money. The evidence was overwhelming, and nearly everyone present looked at me with contempt. I'll never forget how I felt that day. At this moment, looking at Zhou in front of me, I only feel disgusted, yet he remained completely unaware. Tucked the bag into my arms, then he took my hand and pulled me toward the door. Baby, let's go to that Japanese restaurant we often eat at tonight. I've been craving it for ages. Perfect timing. I just gave you a bag, and it'll look great on you when you go out. The scene was exactly the same as in the previous life. During that meal, he casually mentioned how much he had spent on high-quality replicas, subtly guiding me to feel sorry for him. Later, it became our unspoken tradition. Every time he gave me a fake bag, I would treat him to an expensive Japanese meal. It was only later that I found out the hostess at that Japanese restaurant was Song Nuanyuan. No wonder, every time I try to pay, she claims the store's system is malfunctioning and insists I pay in cash. Consequently, the bills I covered and the money I spent for Zhou later became nearly impossible to verify. Not only did I have little savings left, I even ended up with a massive debt of $2 million. At that thought, a bright smile spread across my face. Sure, too, he ordered a lavish spread of his favorite expensive sashimi, just as he had in his previous life. I don't like sashimi. Every time we have Japanese food, I usually stop after just a couple of bites and wait for him. He just really likes it, so he always chooses this store. But this time, I wolfed down the food right in front of him, devouring all his favorite dishes. He was dumbfounded, astonished by my sudden change. Sweetie, I thought you didn't like sashimi. I looked up at him with a reproachful gaze. You know I don't like it, yet you always order so much. Hearing me say that, he sincerely took my hands in his. Baby, I didn't mean to. From now on, I'll take care of anything you don't like. Just give me whatever food you don't want to eat. I'll be your personal trash can. Sigh, even though that bag is a high-quality replica, It still cost me a pretty penny. Looks like I'll be eating instant noodles again at the end of the month. Only by following the baby do I get a chance to eat what I want. He feigned restraint, and our daily expenses were mostly split evenly. In my previous life, I felt sorry for him putting on such a pitiful act, so I offered to treat him this time. The average spend per person at this restaurant is as high as 2,000, and Jochi always loves ordering extremely expensive ingredients, costing me at least half a month's salary each time. I didn't eat much, but I ended up paying. This happens almost every month. I felt overwhelmed, and each time I was about to speak, I remembered how much he must have spent to send me the bag, so I swallowed my words. Later I found out that the counterfeit he bought wasn't even a high-quality fake. Its most expensive version didn't exceed 1,000. I let out a soft laugh, looking at him seriously. How about I treat you to this meal instead of splitting the bill? His eyes lit up when he heard my words. I knew you were the best, sweetie. He ordered quite a few more dishes. He knew I was paying again, so even though I ate more than usual this time, he was still very attentive to me. Until checkout, I realized that Song Nuanyuan was carrying the same bag as me. This is a detail I never noticed in my previous life. It must be the real bag that Jochi bought for her. She gently brushed her hair back, speaking in a sweet, delicate tone as she often did. Excuse me, ma'am, there seems to be an issue with the system. Would you mind paying in cash instead? I showed a look of impatience. Why does the system always break down when it's my turn to pay? I don't have any cash on me this time. How about I wait until you fix the system before I check out? Jochi pulled me aside and began to persuade me in a soft, gentle tone. Honey, there's an ATM right nearby. Look, the receptionist is just trying to make a living too. It's not easy for her. Why don't you just go and withdraw some cash from next door? But you've already gone to withdraw several times, haven't you? I'll wait here for you. My sweetheart is the most understanding. I'm usually very easygoing, but this time, I refuse to back down. Is it my fault the system had an error? Just because she has it hard, does that mean my life is easy? Hearing my words, Song Nuanyuan felt deeply wronged. Her eyes were red as she looked at Jochi. Sorry, it's not my fault the system crashed. Several customers glanced this way. Song Nuanyuan immediately cast a pleading glance at the male comrades present. Quite a few onlookers began to speak up for her. One burly man even spoke up loudly. Yeah, it's not easy for a young girl working a job. There's an ATM not far from this shop. If it were me, I'd just go and get the cash. Seeing both Jochi and the crowd backing her up, Song Nuanyuan looked at me with smug satisfaction. Just as she thought I was about to give in the next second, I let out a soft chuckle. Then why don't we call the store manager to see if the system really made a mistake? 3. Song Nuanyuan didn't expect me to doubt her this time. A flicker of guilt flashed in her eyes, as if afraid I would actually call the manager. She told me the system was fixed within seconds. I pulled out my payment QR code and added a note. Shared expenses with boyfriend. Jochi, standing nearby, darkened his expression. He must be thinking now that if we end up in court and things get ugly, he might have to split this money with me. But then it occurred to me, it's just a few $1,000, nowhere near as expensive as the bag he gave me, and I felt a lot better. I could never figure out why Jochi and Song Nuanyuan came to me. I'm just an ordinary, hard-working office worker. After all, in this lifetime, it suddenly clicked. I have a stable job and own a property, the very apartment Jochi and I live in now, which my parents worked their whole lives to save up for, especially because I'm not good at socializing, and my parents are both honest, simple people, naively pitiful. His intentions in pursuing me were never pure from the start. After this, I not only stopped using cash for payments, but even started noting every transaction as a shared expense with my boyfriend. Jochi saw that he couldn't gain any extra benefits from me, so he started giving me bags and jewelry more frequently. Afraid I wouldn't accept it, he made a point of verbally emphasizing to me every time that what he bought was indeed counterfeit. He thought his plan was flawless, but little did he know I had installed surveillance cameras at home from the moment I was reborn. That is, until my birthday. He presented a hefty, solid gold bracelet, offering it to me like a treasured prize. Baby, this is the birthday gift I got for you. I declined as I usually do. I can't. It's one thing to accept your fake bags from you normally, but how could I possibly accept your gold? But then he ruffled my hair. Silly. This is just gold-plated silver. It's not expensive. What's a little money spent for? You, just take it. I pretended to be happy and accepted it. Seeing that I accepted it, he breathed a sigh of relief. Surely, Song Nuanyuan must have a heavy gold bracelet in her hand right now. In my previous life, after my birthday, he began obsessively giving me gold and silver bracelets as if he had discovered a new continent. On the day of the court hearing, the price of gold had risen to nearly 800. I couldn't produce the real gold, but he insisted I must have sold it for cash. In the end, I even had to compensate him for the price difference due to the rise in gold prices. He must have seen the gold price skyrocketing long ago and considered deceiving me as an investment. The neighbors, unaware of the truth, all said he doted on me in my previous life. To save his face, I never told anyone the truth and treated this bracelet as if it were real. Little did I know this inadvertently made the neighbors Zhou witnesses in this life. I went around telling everyone that what I had on my hand was gold-plated silver. I even showed them the appraisal report for the bracelet, afraid they wouldn't believe me. Zhou was furious, blaming me for not saving his face. Wan, you weren't like this before, you used to be so considerate of me. Why did you have to go around telling people that what I gave you was gold-plated silver? Aren't you afraid they'll think I'm stingy with you? I pretended to be naive and asked him back, honey, you don't actually want me to tell the neighbors that the gold bracelet you gave me is real, do you? He was left speechless, suppressed his anger, and deliberately gave me the cold shoulder for several days. In my past life, I would have eagerly run to him to make up, but in this life, I just feel a sense of relief. What's more, I discovered that Song Nuanyuan lives in the same neighborhood as me. These past few days, Zhou and I have been in a cold war, so he's been staying at her place. Song Nuanyuan wears gold and silver jewelry every day, carries designer bags, and packages herself like a genuine socialite. Seeing me tell everyone that the bag Zhou gave me was fake and the jewelry was gold-plated silver, she specifically built good relationships with the neighbors, pretending to feel sorry for Zhou. Sigh, the bag Miss Wan is carrying looks genuine to me, and those gold pieces definitely appear to be real. Maybe her boyfriend was afraid she'd feel stressed, so he gave her the real thing but deliberately told her it was fake. Such good men are rare these days. For hearing her say that, the neighbors nodded in agreement. Even Zhou reputation in the neighborhood improved quite a bit. He was beaming with joy, even graciously forgiving me and sending me a lot of gold-wrapped silver. According to the timeline from my previous life, in another 2 months, he would break up with me and then sue me in court. I silently prayed in my heart for that day to come sooner. After all, right now, even looking at him for a second makes me sick. Weren't you so keen on scheming against me? After being reborn, I immediately transferred the house ownership to my parents and signed a rental contract with them. The rent was set at the highest reasonable market rate, and I paid my parents the rent on time every month, with a note, shared expenses with my boyfriend. He stays with me an extra month, or lives with me an extra month. He must pay an additional month's rent. If I hadn't wanted him to feel the same pain, I wouldn't have waited for him to bring up breaking up. Sure enough, 2 months later, he broke up with her. I readily agreed. He was somewhat taken aback. Aren't you going to ask me to stay? It seems you don't love me as much as you claimed. Without me, you'll never find another man as generous to you as I am. I smiled faintly and showed him the door. I sued him before he could sue me. He lived with me for over 2 years, with a monthly rent of 6,000 yuan. He was responsible for half, 3,000 yuan per month, amounting to a total of 80,000 yuan. I paid 100,000 yuan for our shared expenses first, so he owes me 50,000 yuan. He transferred the 130,000 yuan to me with great resentment. The next moment, a confident smile spread across their face. I wasn't going to argue with you this much, but you forced my hand. Like in the previous life, he sued me with a single document, presenting gift receipts totaling over 2 million. He has only one request, that I return all the gifts. I returned all the counterfeit goods he gave me to him, just as he wished. He picked up one of the gifts with a mischievous grin and examined it closely. These are all fakes, not the ones I gave you. I know you're reluctant to part with those gifts, but I gave them to you based on the premise of marriage, so you must return them to me. He proudly produced all the invoices he had prepared in advance, eagerly awaiting the verdict. Song Nuanyuan sat in the public gallery with a group of neighbors, her face unable to conceal her excitement. I presented the surveillance video I had prepared long ago. In the footage, Zhou voice stating that these items were all counterfeits was crystal clear. Seeing the evidence I presented, a flicker of panic flashed in his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by confidence. What can your video prove? Everyone in our neighborhood knows how much I used to love you. I only told you those things were fake so you'd accept the gift, just to ease your mind. Hard evidence is overwhelming. For the sake of our long-standing relationship, I don't want to make things any worse. If you really can't come up with the gift I gave you, I can accept you putting up your house as collateral. You can pay me the remaining amount in monthly installments. However, if you choose installments, the interest cannot be waived. You earn $10,000 a month, with interest included. You should be able to pay it off in a little over a decade." He spoke with complete confidence. Even starting to lay out my repayment plan, I laughed out loud. "Even if this video doesn't prove anything, but how can you be sure I don't have other evidence?" 5. With those words, my witness took the stage. He stared in disbelief as his relative, who worked as a personal shopper, became my witness, watching helplessly as all the evidence against him was laid out on the table. Not only are there transaction records with him, but even chat logs detailing how he plotted against me. I asked him back with a smile, "Didn't you say you only buy genuine products? If what he gave me is genuine, then what about all those things at Song Nguyen's place?" He was emotionally agitated, hurling insults at me without pause. The evidence wasn't even fully presented yet when I pulled out his chat records with Song Nguyen. Although he always deletes it promptly, there are always 1 or 2 instances where he slips up. Song Nguyen's face turned pale and then flushed as she looked at these chat records. Even the neighbor who came with her looked at her with disdain. And the neighbor sitting next to her even quietly shifted her position. Song Nguyen never expected that I would discover their plan. Those bags and gold were quietly sitting in her home, and the police found them immediately upon searching. The outcome of this matter was that I returned all the counterfeit goods to Zhou Qi. When the verdict was delivered, Zhou Qi glared at me with a look of pure malice, as if he wanted to devour me alive. "Jiang Wanwan, I never imagined you could be such a scheming and malicious woman. I truly underestimated you. You wait and see." He hurled the harshest words of his life at me. He even threatened me after we left the courthouse. But I'm someone who has already died once. How could such a threat possibly scare me? I met his venomous gaze. "Wait and see." "Well, that depends on whether you'll even get the chance to make me wait." I immediately filed a defamation lawsuit against Zhou Qi. He and Song Nguyen conspired to slander me, with the alleged amount reaching 2 million. Although it didn't cause me any substantial harm, the circumstances were egregious. As the mastermind, Zhou Qi even faces the risk of being imprisoned for 3 years. He approached me on his own initiative, wanting to settle the matter privately. He even brought up those past events between us again, trying to soften my heart. "Wanwan, I know you don't really want to sue me. You love me so much. How could you possibly do anything to hurt me? We were just talking about our plans after marriage last month. Don't you remember? Can we settle this privately? I've already had Song Nguyen return all the gifts. Those were originally meant for you anyway. I just had her hold on to them for safekeeping. If you're willing to forgive me, all those gifts are yours. I can sign a voluntary gift agreement." He spoke earnestly, completely ignoring Song Nguyen, whose face was pale with anger. I looked at him with a look of disdain. "Who knows what evil intentions you had when you gave me the gift? After all, you nearly extorted 2 million from me." Sigh. "After going through this, I think I'm going to end up depressed. Maybe the judge will feel sorry for me seeing how miserable I am." Seeing my disagreement, his tone grew anxious. "If you're depressed, I can give you some emotional compensation. Just name your price. As long as it doesn't land me in jail, I'll pay whatever it takes." Consequently, with the coordination of both parties' lawyers, Zhou Qi transferred the last 80,000 yuan from his bank account to me. He doesn't want to go to jail, and frankly, I don't want him to either. Letting him off easy in prison is too good for him. The pain he's suffering now is not even a fraction of what I endured in my past life. Thinking of all the suffering my parents and I endured in my previous life, I wished I could send Zhou Qi and Song Nguyen straight to hell. 6. Seeing me relent, Zhou Qi also breathed a sigh of relief. He took back all the luxury items he had given to Song Nguyen and sold them to a second-hand store to recoup some of his losses. He used a portion of the money from loans and credit card cash advances to buy luxury goods over the past 2 years. Now that he hasn't managed to scam me, he can only try to recover his losses and pay off the credit card debt. He doesn't want to become a person on the list of dishonest debtors. My neighbor told me that before Zhou Qi sold those things, Song Nguyen threw a huge tantrum. "What do you mean by this now? After scamming Jiang Wanwan, you come to scam me? If you hadn't said back then that you could drain all the money from Jiang Wanwan to buy me bags, do you think I would have even looked at you?" That's when they found out that Zhou Qi was actually Song Nguyen's simp, and she was only with him for the luxury bags and goods. So not only did Zhou Qi end up with nothing to show for his efforts, but he was also kicked out by Song Nguyen. Thinking back to her previous life, Song Nguyen became an internet celebrity, cultivating an image of being As serene and unassuming as a chrysanthemum to this day, I still remember the remarks she made criticizing me during her livestream. Honestly, I never imagined Wanwan could be such an undignified person. She would stop at nothing to squeeze out more money. The methods she used to rake in cash are things we wouldn't even consider doing, even if she told us about them. Earning your own money to buy things for yourself is what we, as independent women of the new era, should do. Sisters, we must take this as a cautionary tale. At the time, her remarks attracted a large number of fans, but now, why would she break up with Zhou Qi just because he didn't buy her a bag? She really has network traffic all figured out. I immediately registered an account and shared what I had experienced online while getting back at Zhou Qi and Song Nuanyuan. It was also to make everyone more vigilant, although I didn't name any names. Song Nuanyuan had invited quite a few neighbors to attend the court. Hearing back then, they saw that I posted about this online and flocked to my comment section to show their support. The power of netizens is immense. Soon, they even managed to locate Song Nuanyuan's account. At this moment, she's still a minor internet celebrity, live streaming every day asking her fans to send her gifts. When her comment section got flooded, she thought she had finally gone viral. Even though the comment section is full of criticism, she's thick-skinned enough to try and ride this wave of controversy for attention. But soon, she realized something was wrong. Walking down the street, she would be pointed at and gossiped about. When buying vegetables, she would be pelted with leafy greens by the older women. Even when returning home, there would always be some filthy, unidentified substance smeared on the door. This was merely the tip of the iceberg of what I experienced in my previous life. She lost her job at the Japanese restaurant, couldn't take it anymore, hid all her suggestive videos, and then posted a clarification video online. I didn't name any names when I shared it, but the statement Song Nuanyuan released might as well have posted Zhou Qi's ID number directly. I was deceived by Zhou Qi too. I had no idea he had a girlfriend. I was completely unaware of his plans to sue Jiang Wanwan. Why is it that every time these scandals break, it's always us victims who get hurt? How come the men always manage to slip away unscathed? This matter has nothing to do with me. If you want to blame someone, you should be blaming Zhou Qi. Sisters, we need to stick together. Most of the people attacking me are men, and they're probably the type who just want to take advantage of women in real life too. Video released. Zhou Qi's job was greatly affected. His job was already unstable, and now with the scandal breaking out, he was directly fired by the company. Song Wanwan's account had already blocked Zhou Qi, so he had no idea that his dismissal was all thanks to her. Now, he was not only penniless but also lost his source of income. He had nowhere to go, so he came back to me, as attentive as he once was when pursuing me. Wanwan, are you still mad? Can I come home now? 7. Don't worry, I'll pay the rent this time. I'm a man, and I should take responsibility. I really know I was wrong this time. He walked into our former home as if he owned the place. Just as I was marveling at how the furnishings were still the same as before, I saw my parents sitting in the living room. The elderly couple took leave and rushed over overnight after learning I was filing a lawsuit. They had long heard from me about Zhou Qi's glorious deeds and were eyeing him with disapproval, but Zhou Qi seemed completely oblivious to the change in my parents' expressions, just casually introducing himself to them as if they were old friends. I stopped him, took out my phone, and showed him Song Nuanyuan's account. He froze, staring in disbelief at the video of Song Nuanyuan tearfully making her accusations, his hand holding the phone trembling uncontrollably. How could Nuanyuan possibly? He was reluctant to believe that Song Nuanyuan would do this to him. After all, most of what he had done was for Song Nuanyuan's sake. If it weren't for Song Nuanyuan saying she liked luxury bags, he would never have risked coming out to deceive people. For Song Nuanyuan, he even cashed out his credit cards and the like to buy bags. He's only taking back those bags and paying the money now to avoid being labeled as untrustworthy. Didn't I tell her I would have given those bags back to her eventually? Why did she have to ruin me? No wonder all my relatives and friends have been ignoring me. No wonder the company fired me. His legs gave way, and he collapsed to the floor. My dad grabbed the mop nearby and swung it at him, driving him out. He was in a wretched state, yet still pleaded for my forgiveness outside the door. Song Nuanyuan is live streaming right now, so I kindly open the stream and turn the volume to maximum, making sure he can hear it clearly outside the door. In the live stream room with tens of thousands of viewers, Song Nuanyuan's voice involuntarily rose in pitch. Everyone, the truth is Zhou Qi has always had feelings for me. He said himself that he would do anything for me as long as we could be together. I only accepted those gifts because he insisted on giving them to me. Who knew he was trying to set up his own girlfriend? Sisters, we women should still aim for upward social mobility, otherwise it's easy to end up meeting these low-quality men, but the guys in my livestream are definitely all high quality. Of course, thank you for the gifts, big brothers. If you'd like to hear more stories about me and Zhou Qi, feel free to join my fan group. Just light up my fan badge to get in. Gradually, the sound of Zhou Qi's pleading faded away outside the door. I just closed the livestream. Actually, I had always known he would come back. To me, he is meticulous with me and won't be willing to compensate me fully from his savings, so I've recorded and saved almost every video released by Song Nuanyuan, including her previously posted suggestive videos. I packaged these videos and sent them anonymously to Zhou Qi. Although he lacks any real ability, he has an inexplicable possessiveness over women who don't belong to him. I wonder what he'd think if he saw Song Nuanyuan flirting with his brother online while still keeping him on a leash. He couldn't even bear it back then, let alone now, when he was nearly ruined by Song Nuanyuan. Sure enough, it didn't take long before they started turning on each other. Zhou Qi also registered an account. Not only did he post online all the chat records where Song Nuanyuan hinted him to buy luxury goods, but he also uploaded the audio recordings of Song Nuanyuan plotting with her to trick me. Song Nuanyuan's voice was sweet and coquettish, but the words she spoke sent a chill down my spine. Brother Zhou Qi, it seems the only female homeowner living alone in our community is Jiang Wanwan. She's so young and already owns a house. She can't be a good woman. Deceiving her would actually be doing society a favor. But brother Zhou Qi, you mustn't fall in love with her over time. Nuanyuan will be heartbroken. Once I get the money, I'll make sure to treat you right, my dear. 8. After Zhou Qi released the audio, it was clear that he had completely severed ties with Song Nuanyuan. The more they tear me down, the more sympathy I get from netizens. This is the first time in my 2 lifetimes that I've witnessed the entire process of them plotting to harm me. I just feel it's blinding. Later, Zhou Qi even compiled the entire process into a PowerPoint presentation. The PowerPoint spread rapidly, instantly trending locally. Their reputations in the city are completely ruined. Song Nuanyuan was relentlessly attacked online. Every time she went live, her stream got reported, her account was banned from posting, and the money she recently earned by pandering to female audiences was frozen in her account, inaccessible. Yet, Zhou Qi still didn't seem satisfied. He discovered that over the past 2 years, Song Nuanyuan had secretly arranged several meetings with Big Brother. Even the job at the Japanese restaurant before was only found thanks to my older brother. He broke down, thinking Song Nuanyuan was merely fond of material things, but he never expected that his own head had already become a lush green meadow. He had always believed Song Nuanyuan was pure and virtuous, enduring humiliation for their happy future. She loved him deeply, yet he never imagined Song Nuanyuan would be so flirtatious with every man. So, one night, he rushed to where Song Nuanyuan was living, forced open her door, and poured concentrated sulfuric acid onto her face. Song Nuanyuan was completely disfigured, with numerous scars from sulfuric acid corrosion covering her body. Seeing Song Nuanyuan in that state, Zhou Qi laughed maniacally. Serves you right for being so provocative. Let's see how you'll go behind my back to seduce other men now. You love live streaming so much, don't you? Go ahead and stream now. Let everyone see what a pathetic state you're in. You've ruined me. I'll make your life a living hell. Ignoring Song Nuanyuan's wails, he took pictures of her miserable state. The neighbors, awakened by the commotion, were all shocked by Song Nuanyuan's appearance. Zhou Qi knew he could no longer hide the truth, so he turned himself in. An endless prison sentence awaited him. Later, I decided to buy this house and return to my hometown to live with my parents. Before leaving, I went to see Song Nuanyuan. At this moment, she was unrecognizable. Her once proud face was now covered in corrosive scars. Seeing me arrive, she was overcome with emotion. I took out a mirror and showed her the reflection of herself. This was a reality she had been unwilling to face since she was brought back from the brink. Jiang Wanwan, shouldn't you be dead already? How are you still alive? Go die. Why have I become like this? Shouldn't I have already succeeded in entrepreneurship? Haven't I already started live streaming courses, telling my girls how to become a big heroine like me? Zhou Qi, where's Zhou Qi? Where did you take Zhou Qi? Hurry up and get him to pay for my plastic surgery. She was hysterical, heedless of the risk of tearing her wounds open. I, in turn, spoke up kindly. So you're back too, long time no see, Song Nuanyuan. Zhou Qi is in prison now. Even if he were still around, he wouldn't give you any more money. After all, it was him who made you look like this. Under her incredulous gaze, I brought her parents in these past few days. her parents have been wandering around the neighborhood every day, telling everyone they meet that they're looking for their daughter, Song Nuanyuan. The neighbors now find the name Song Nuanyuan inauspicious. And I was the only one who told them where she is. It's not out of kindness on my part. I just heard that Song Nuanyuan's parents came to ask her for money since Song Nuanyuan is so eager to get plastic surgery and go live streaming. I must give her a helping hand. I merely casually mentioned in front of her parents that Song Nuanyuan is an internet celebrity, and they immediately started a live stream. No matter how hard Song Nuanyuan struggled, it was useless. She couldn't accept it. In her previous life, she had built a persona of could rely on her looks but chooses to rely on herself and as serene as a chrysanthemum, even competing on the beauty track. Yet now, she was exposed to the public in such an unattractive image. No one cares about her feelings. Even if she earns money, her parents won't give it to her for plastic surgery. She was furious and powerless, doing everything she could to provoke me. Haha, Jiang Wanshan. Do you know how your parents died in your previous life? They begged me to clear your name. TSK TSK TSK. The way they groveled was just like a dog. You have no idea how miserably they died. Thinking of what happened to my parents in my previous life, a dull pain briefly surged in my heart. But in this life, none of that happened, and those who hurt me all received their punishment. I felt a sense of relief, glancing at Song Nuanyuan, whose face was ugly but still defiant, and couldn't help but let out a light laugh. I don't know anything. All I know is that the one acting like a dog now is you. With that, I ignored her curses and turned to leave the ward. My parents were waiting for me outside the hospital. Time will eventually smooth over the shadows of the past life. End of text. That's all for the first story. Stay tuned. The next one is even more exciting. I am a withered, ancient leather corpse. I've raised a little granddaughter, ready to shed my skin and be reborn. Raising her, I accidentally raised her to adulthood because the girl is still too young, thin as a matchstick. Let's wait until she's a bit healthier before we consider it. My granddaughter brought me some cookies. Since I've eaten her cookies, I can't very well eat her too. My girl got into college. Saving money is the priority. We can worry about changing the skin later. Once my daughter graduates, starts earning, buys a house, and lives a good life, I'll treat myself to a full makeover, all in one go. I count down the days with glee, eagerly anticipating the glorious day of a new skin. But all I waited for was a dying near. In her hand, she still clutched the blood-stained admission letter. 01. Just a few days into the semester, our dorm room was already in complete chaos. First, Daoni moved her comatose grandmother into the dorm, and then things started disappearing frequently. My roommate Zhou Qing stared at the empty clothes drying rack and screamed in a fit of rage. Who's the shameless one, desperate for money, even stealing someone else's underwear? Content type, narrative text. Zhou Qing's family was wealthy, and the items she lost were all high-end branded goods. With the temper of a young lady, she couldn't bear it and immediately began to lash out indirectly, blaming others under the guise of criticism. Such a nice student dorm, and now we have a paralyzed old woman moving in. If you want to show filial piety, why not rent a place outside? Why squeeze into our dorm? College dorms aren't your personal retirement home. I knew she was cursing at dawn. The only student from a poor family in our dorm. I'm from the same hometown as Dao and we were classmates. So I know all her secrets. Daoni was abandoned in a cornfield right after birth, and it was Dao Finglian who kindly picked her up and raised her with great care, feeding and nurturing her from infancy. They rely on each other, the old and the young, sharing a deep bond. Unfortunately, just after Daoni got into college, her grandmother suddenly became paralyzed for no apparent reason. Daoni had no choice but to carry her grandmother to college. But I really hate her grandmother because the old woman looks so frightening. A sallow, aged face, completely hairless, bald head and brows. It would occasionally open its murky, triangular eyes and stare straight at people. Even though I knew it was just the unconscious state of a vegetative patient, it still gave me the creeps. Daoni said her grandmother had to wear the burial clothes and embroidered shoes of the deceased to keep her soul intact. Otherwise her grandmother would die. But what do I care if her grandmother lives or dies? I certainly don't want to share a dorm room with a creepy old woman. So, that very night, I made an anonymous report. The school administrators rushed over with the dorm supervisor to inspect the room. Everyone was shocked to see a shriveled old woman lying in bed. No one knows how the old woman managed to sneak it past the dormitory supervisor. The leader kindly asked Daoni if she would be willing to move out with her grandmother, as the school could apply for an additional housing subsidy for her. But Daoni refused to leave the dormitory, crying and shouting that she would carry her grandmother and jump off the building. The school leadership was so frightened they nearly wet their pants, terrified of any fatal incidents, and never dared to say another word. In the end, it's always just me, Zhou Qing, and Lu Yin, 3 unlucky roommates who end up suffering because of an old woman living there. The entire dorm room always smelled strangely, like a pile of dead rats. I even started to wonder if the old woman had already died, otherwise, how could she smell so bad? 02 In the middle of the night, I was half asleep when I suddenly heard a rustling sound. I opened my eyes irritably, about to curse, when I turned my head and saw Downey's mosquito net billowing. A dark figure slid off the bed. Could it be that Donnie is trying to steal something under the cover of darkness? I quietly lifted my head, wanting to see more clearly. The shadow slid silently to the ground, then suddenly began writhing left and right as it crawled forward. I instantly widened my eyes. Stealing doesn't require such a high difficulty crawl, does it? At that moment, the light from outside the window seeped in, falling directly on the shadowed face. Not Dao and I, it's Downey's grandmother. The old woman crawled forward with great effort, her elbows bent as she dragged herself across the ground. Withered arms struggled to drag the waist and legs, like a snake slithering. As the body rose and fell, the black funeral shroud glowed with an eerie light. The embroidered shoes made a soft rustling sound as they brushed against the floor. I rubbed my eyes in disbelief, certain I was seeing things. When he opened his eyes again, the old woman had already climbed onto the opposite bed. Sharp fingernails scraped against the iron railing, producing a chilling, grating sound. Halfway up, the old woman suddenly stopped moving. Her bald head snapped around, fixing me with an intense stare. 2 empty pant legs swayed in the breeze, dangling in midair. I was so scared that I quickly closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. Suddenly, a hoarse, aged voice echoed through the silent dormitory. Covering my pounding heart, I quietly opened my eyes again just in time to see the old woman straddling Zhou Qing, choking her neck with all her might. Zhou Qing groaned in discomfort, but couldn't wake up no matter what. I swallowed hard and slowly retreated back under the covers. Tonight is the ghost festival, and I might have seen a ghost. 03 The next day, I slept in until noon, only to be woken by the sound of a blender lifting the curtain. I saw Danny preparing a liquid meal. Her grandmother remained motionless in bed, like a corpse. With lingering fear, I patted my chest. It really was just a nightmare. Daoni looked at me with pitiful eyes. Suna, could you please help turn my grandmother over this afternoon? I agreed without hesitation. No problem, we're from the same hometown, so your grandmother is like my own. After Donnie left, I gazed at the motionless figure lying in bed, a person now in a vegetative state, and spoke softly. Grandma, I'm going to turn you over. I grabbed her arm and yanked hard. Grandma rolled right over in bed. She stared at me with wide, frightened eyes. I poked her feeding tube gently and whispered an apology. I'm sorry, Grandma, I didn't control my strength properly. I grabbed her shoulders and pulled her forcefully outward. The clasp snapped open with 2 sharp clicks. My hand froze mid air, my mind buzzing. The set of underwear that Zhou Qing lost was being worn by the old woman. It's a true silk texture in youthful pink. Daoni's grandmother is a genuine old woman, with a wrinkled face that's hideously ugly, so how could her body possibly be as youthful and delicate as an 18-year-old girl's? Even more bizarrely, she's actually wearing a Van Cleef & Arpels spiral necklace around her neck, with a matching bracelet on her wrist. That whole outfit costs nearly 60k. Daoni has been a financially aided student from a poor family her entire life. I pushed the old woman aside and carefully lifted the blanket that was bulging at the foot of the bed. Wow, my Yumia leather shoes and bag, Chanel dress, and sunglasses, a Burberry coat. How could this be? How could these things be here? I gnawed on my fingernails, unable to make sense of it no matter how hard I tried. Suddenly, a hand grabbed the hem of my clothes. I was so scared I almost fell right on my butt. That hand was as delicate as a maiden's. The old woman opened her mouth wide and strained to emit a series of sounds. Her voice is also that of a girl. Outside, suddenly came the sound of a quarrel between Dao and I and Lu Yin, as if Dao and I had stolen Lu Yin's boyfriend. You little slut, acting all innocent and pure every day, turns out you're just a cheap woman who steals men. As the footsteps drew closer, the old woman suddenly released me and swiftly closed her eyes. She became a vegetative state again, like a lifeless corpse. 04 I was a bit scared, so I quickly found a Taoist priest online to consult. It was a long time before the Taoist master replied to me. I suspect this old woman is a skinwalker, searching for a replacement in your dormitory. Once the corpse completely replaces its skin, the stand will be completely possessed. I shivered, How can you tell whose skin the skin changer has taken? The Taoist priest replied, someone who eats and lives with you. I clutched my phone, and my heart began to pound wildly. 05 at night, I dared not sleep again. Sure, here's the translation in natural English, matching the narrative style of the original text. Sure enough, just as midnight struck, Grandma Daoni slithered out of bed again, like a black python, rustling softly this time. Her goal was to crawl into Lu Yin's bed. I widened my eyes in shock, helplessly watching the old woman straddle Lu Yin and relentlessly pounding her chest. While pounding, she let out a series of cries. I didn't dare look again and quietly ducked my head back under the covers. Just as I was about to close my eyes, several cold, long fingernails suddenly pried open my eyelids. The old woman's bald head suddenly thrust close to my nose. I wanted to hide, but my neck wouldn't move at all. I wanted to scream, but my throat felt as if it were being strangled by something, and no sound would come out. The cold moonlight fell upon the old woman's sallow face beneath the bare brow ridge. A pair of sunken gray eyes stared fixedly at me. Suddenly, a foul-tasting tongue slowly emerged from her mouth and began to vigorously lick my eyeballs. A piercing, eye-stabbing pain made me shiver uncontrollably. A foul tongue lapped at my left eyeball, then moved to the right. I was in such agony that cold sweat poured down my face, and everything before my eyes turned crimson, as if the entire dorm had been drenched in blood. The old woman licked while shouting with her foul-smelling mouth, "Ah ah ah, ah ah ah." I don't know how long it took before the old woman finally climbed off me. Tears streamed from the corner of my eyes as I kept murmuring, ba," all night long. I was almost constantly having nightmares. An endless cornfield, the door that just won't lock, and then, that snake-like cold hand covered my mouth and forcefully pulled down my pants. I screamed loudly in my dream, struggling desperately. Suddenly, I stepped into empty air and my eyes snapped open. A drop of cold sweat dripped into my eye. I hissed in pain and fumbled for a mirror. From under my pillow, my eyes were crisscrossed with dense, red veins. As I turned my head, I saw a dark, hand-shaped bruise circling Zhou Qing's neck, and beneath Lu Yin's collar, there was also a faint row of black marks. It wasn't a dream, it was real. I was so frightened that I broke out in a cold sweat, shouting excitedly, "Can't let the old woman stay in the dorm anymore. She's a skin corpse, trying to seize Danny's body." Zhou Qing and Lu Yin stared at me like I was a fool. "What are you talking about? Seriously, you must be dreaming. What skin corpse? What flesh body? Did you watch a horror movie last night?" I rolled out of bed, pulled up the Taoist priest's chat history to show them, and then laid out all my recent observations and deductions for the two of them. Zhou Qing's eyes nearly popped out of her head. "Don't scare me. Supernatural beings aren't allowed since the founding of the People's Republic. How come I can't see any black mark on my neck?" Lu Yin was also skeptical. "That sounds too far-fetched. It can't be that serious. Besides, what happened to Daoni and her grandmother has nothing to do with us. You two are from the same hometown and get along well, but she stole my boyfriend. Why should I help her?" Zhou Qing rolled her eyes and said, "Can a Taoist priest you find on Taba for 50 yuan really be reliable? Besides, why should I help a thief?" Suddenly, the old woman on the bed let out another sound. I was so anxious I broke out in a sweat. "Listen, does this voice sound familiar? Doesn't that sound like Daoni's voice?" The old woman who steals things and steals other people's boyfriends is the skin corpse granny. The real Daoni is trapped inside the old woman's body. Once the head swapping is complete, Daoni's physical body will be completely possessed. Zhou Qing, being bold, rushed to the bedside and whispered, "If you are Daoni, make one sound. If you are not, make two sounds." After a brief, deathly silence, a desperate sound pierced the air. 06. Lu Yin asked again, "So, the current Daoni is actually your grandmother?" The old woman's eyes flashed with agitation, and she forced another from her throat. The three of us gasped in unison. Zhou Qing was utterly perplexed. "Then what does that mean?" I blurted out. "She might be saying, 'Help me.'" The old woman on the bed looked at me with a face full of gratitude and let out an intense It suddenly dawned on me. "Actually, you're not hurting us. You're taking advantage of your grandmother being asleep to call out to us for help, right?" The old woman, with tears in her eyes, let out a soft Zhou Qing bit her lip, her heart aching with reluctance. Lu Yin also looked troubled, her eyes filled with tears. After all, they're all just teenagers. No one truly has a heart of stone. I glanced around to make sure Danny wasn't in the dorm before lowering my voice and saying, "I grew up in the same village as Daoni. She was a foundling and had a particularly tough childhood. I suspect Granny Skinwalker took her in just to swap skins. When I was a child, the adults in the village wouldn't let us go play at Grandma's house, saying she was a Xiongjiapa and would eat children's fingers. Didn't you see that Grandma went to great lengths to get Dao and I into college and away from the countryside, just so she could leave this small mountain village herself? Can you really bear to watch Dao and I take over her body by corpse and turn her into a paralyzed old woman? The Taoist master said as long as the skin corpse hasn't changed heads, there's still time. For 800 yuan, he can come and handle it. I'll cover the cost. Just lend a hand. Okay, girls, if girls don't help girls, this world is completely beyond saving. Zhou Qing hesitated for a long time, then finally took the old woman's bony hand and nodded. Let me cover this. Don't worry, Daoni, we'll find a way to save you. Lu Yin's hand reached out to hold it, her eyes shimmering with tears all along. She looked at my sincere face and asked, as if casually, Suna, are you willing? I stared at the old woman's empty neck, only wondering where that Van Cleef and Arpels necklace had gone, and answered offhandedly, of course I am willing, because I was also curious. After all, it was Darnie I hit with the brick that day. How did the person lying in bed turn out to be her grandmother? 07 in the evening, Jia Daoni went out to work. I quietly led the Taoist master back to my dorm room. The Taoist priest gave each of us a spirit-calling banner to plant in 3 directions around the dormitory. Shaking the bronze bell in his hand, he solemnly instructed us, before the summoning, each of you 3 must write your birth details on red paper, hold hands, and call out for Daoni's spirit in unison. Make absolutely sure the birth details are written correctly. If there's a single mistake, the spirit within the corpse will perish completely. We 3 all wrote our birth dates and times in red ink and handed them to the Taoist priest. The Taoist priest burned the 8 characters to ash, carefully fed them into the nasogastric tube, dissolved them into talismanic water, and poured it into the old woman's body. Inhaling the yellow wine, she suddenly sprayed it out, and the old woman's body jerked upward as if struck by an electric shock, then fell heavily back down. A shiver ran through my body, and my head felt a bit dizzy. The Taoist master shouted fiercely, summon the soul. He began pacing around the dormitory, murmuring our birth details and incantations softly as he walked. The old woman suddenly began convulsing and let out a horrifying scream. I narrowed my eyes, watching her transformation with a cold gaze. The old woman suddenly let out a sharp cry, spat out a mouthful of black blood, and then fell silent. The nasogastric tube lay on the floor, filled with regurgitated dark blood. The Taoist priest clutched his chest, collapsing to the ground, blood trickling from his 7 orifices. He struggled to calculate, his face filled with shock. How could this happen? The birth chart is wrong. Whose 8 characters were written incorrectly? Oh. The girl trapped inside the skin corpse is now completely dead. I stared at the motionless old woman, letting out a long sigh of relief. Zhou Qing and Lu Yin stared in horror at the scene before them. How could it have failed? Indeed, after all their meticulous planning and the daily charade they performed for me, how could it have possibly failed? Of course, it was because my birth details were fake. I knew from the very beginning that the whole dorm was teaming up to scheme against me. The old woman's true target for possession isn't Danny, it's me, because the corpse has a red mole on its chest, exactly like the one on my chest. The skin she changed into was mine. 08 I twisted my stiff neck, sat backwards on the chair, propped my chin, and said with a laugh, you 2 can drop the act. It would take at least 2 people to sneak in a comatose old woman. Since I'm not Denis' accomplice, that only leaves you. The essence of cursing isn't in what she says, but in the tone she uses. Every time you 2 finish scolding Dao and I, you can't help but secretly glance over with a guilty look. Lu Yin, you don't even have a boyfriend. Who is Daoni trying to steal? You 2 naive sweethearts, your acting is truly dreadful. And you wretched priest, you're not the one I found online at all. I told you I live in Building 8, female dormitory, but you managed to walk straight to the entrance of Unit 6 and find me precisely. You're putting on such a grand performance. What you really want is my birth date, isn't it? Daoni has become a vegetable, and her grandmother possessed her body to take her place at school, but in the long run, the old woman's original body will die sooner or later. So now you all want to gang up and try to take over my body, is that it? I'm away at college in another city. Even if my mom notices something off about me later, she'll just think I've grown independent and gotten a bit full of myself. What's even more outrageous is that Dao and I can just disappear without a trace. How is my mom, a rural woman, supposed to find her daughter? You're truly vicious. Why are you targeting a country girl like me and trying to ruin me? Are you guys thinking I'm easy to mess with? The three people across from each other exchanged glances, their panic now impossible to hide. Silly sweet girl and fake Taoist priest still want to compete with me? No way. I pulled the pre-installed pinhole camera from the pothose pot and waved it triumphantly. Tomorrow I will call the Education Bureau to report you for holding superstitious activities in the dormitory and for having improper intentions toward me, a student from a poor background, yet covered in designer labels. I'm going to report her to have her financial aid revoked and expose her online as a vain, ugly fraud. I'll also sue the three of you for ganging up to bully me, drugging me, and causing me to have nightmares and see ghosts every night. My mind and body have suffered immense damage. If I report this to the police, it would be considered a criminal case, right? I demand you compensate me $300,000 for my physical and mental suffering, or you can prepare for jail time. Watching my roommate's crestfallen face, I burst into laughter. You bunch of idiots. Can a rural girl like Daoni really afford a blender that costs over $10,000? The old woman was a cripple. Even after taking over Danny's body, she couldn't shake the habit of walking with a limp. If you observe anything closely enough, flaws will always reveal themselves. From the very first day I moved in, I knew this Daoni was a fake, because the real Daoni, on the day she received her admission letter, I had already beaten her to the brink of death. Not only that, I also stripped her dress completely off, creating the false appearance that she had been assaulted and killed. Because Donnie is the person I despise most in my entire life. 09 The first time I wanted to kill Dao and I was when I was 9 years old. My mom went to pick corn, and I'm doing my homework alone at home. The old bachelor Lu Wen, familiar with the village, slipped in quietly. Seeing my mother wasn't around, he grabbed me by the arm, reeking of alcohol, and dragged me toward the bed. I screamed in terror, kicking and thrashing wildly. Lu Wen grabbed my hair and slammed my head against the wall. After a few hits, I was dazed. In my dazed state, I heard a clear, sharp shout, "Grandma, bad guys, there are bad guys in Suna's house." It was Daoni's voice. I was wide awake in an instant. Lu Wen was still trying to pull down my pants. I sank my teeth into his shoulder with a vicious bite, my whole body trembling. Granny Daoni charged in, sickle in hand, kicked Lu Wen in the backside, and started cursing loudly. "Damn beast. You don't even spare a young girl. Something worse than pigs and dogs. Get out of here now. I'll cut your balls off." Daoni also held a stick in her hand, desperately smashing it toward Lu Wen. Lu Wen cursed under his breath, then pulled up his pants and scurried away in disgrace. Grandma Daoni, drenched in sweat, flipped through my body and let out a heavy sigh of relief. She pulled the blanket over me, her voice trembling. "It's fine, the bastard didn't succeed. Wait until your mom comes back, then have her take you to the village chief and report it to the police station. A desperate old bachelor like Lu Wen might cause trouble again in the future." I sat there in a daze, as if my soul had left my body. Granny Donnie's hand waved frantically before my eyes. Oh dear, could it be that he's been scared out of his wits? At that moment, only I knew that I wasn't stunned with fear. I just quietly watched Daoni hiding behind her grandmother. She had braided a thick plait, her hair coarse and dark. I heard that every time walnut season comes around, her grandmother goes out with a pole and gives the trees a good whack. She would gather a whole basket of walnuts, peel them until her hands were stained green, dry them until crisp, clean them until spotless, and use them as filling in steamed buns with a fried egg inside. She gave all the eggs laid by her chickens to Danny alone. Eat well, grow well. So Daoni had delicate skin, was lively and cheerful, and when she laughed, it was a giggle like that of an innocent little hen. She also wore 2 hair clips on her forehead, shiny ones, the exact style I had always wanted, but my mom never let me wear anything on my forehead. She would just scold me, "You little hussy, not learning anything good, all dolled up every day for who to see." Daoni and I have been going to school together since we were little. There aren't many school-going children left in the village anymore, so the village school shut down. The kids who still go to school have to walk 2 hours along the mountain path to reach the school in town. Daoni's grandmother, leaning on her walking stick, holds Daoni's hand every day and walks from before dawn until daybreak hand in hand. They chatted and laughed all the way. Their laughter felt like strings of needles, pricking at my heart. My mother never once walked me to school. All she ever says is, "You worthless burden, want me to send you off? If you're scared, then don't go to school." My mom came back soon, and upon seeing someone else in the room, her eyes visibly panicked, Grandma Dawn gave a brief overview in just a few words. My mother looked at me, her face turning red and then pale. Then she lunged forward and slapped me hard across the face. "Why does that bastard only pick on you and not anyone else? Daoni is prettier than you. Why doesn't he bully her?" "It's because you're asking for it." Grandma Daoni quickly stopped my mom. Not understanding why she was hitting me like a madwoman. I knew why, because Lewin has been involved with my mother all along. Today is the day they agreed to sleep together. My mother was afraid Lewin might take a liking to me, which is why she flew into a rage and was determined to beat me to death outside the gate. Daoni turned back and gave me a sympathetic glance. That one glance suddenly made me want to tear her limb from limb. "She's just a bastard, a foundling, picked up and raised by that lame old woman, Dauphinlian. What right does she have to pity me? What gives her the right to pity me?" 10. The second time I wanted to kill Daoni was when I was 12 years old. A TV station came to the mountains looking for poor children to swap lives with wealthy city kids. I was eager to try and did everything I could to stand out. After all, I had good grades, was articulate and clever. Even the teacher specifically recommended me. Daoni would only hide behind her grandmother, timidly peeking out with just her little head. Yet, in the end, the TV station chose Daoni because I have my mother and stepfather, and our house is made of brick and tile, but Daoni only has a lame grandmother, and she herself is a foundling. It makes for a more sensational story on the program. My cheap stepfather was that bachelor Lewin who assaulted me, yet my mother still married him. She said that as a widow with a child, without a man in the house, we would be bullied in the village. As I watched Daoni get into the TV station's car and speed away, I clenched my fists so hard I bit my lip until it bled. Why does Daoni always beat me at everything? If not for her, this would all be mine. Daoni went to the big city and lived as a rich kid for half a month. When she returned, she was dressed like a little princess from a fairy tale. She jumped out of the car and threw herself into her grandmother's arms, wailing loudly. Oh, and there was another girl crying in grandma's arms too. Later, I learned that the rich kid was named Zhou Qing. I don't know what magic Granny Daoni possessed, but even the rebellious city kids would cling to her and sob their hearts out. Perhaps I've never been loved. I didn't know that love could be something that makes you cry. After Zhou Qing returned to the city, he would send things to Daoni's family every few days. Of course, I stole all those things. Daoni is incredibly stupid, and her grandmother is old, lame, and even more clueless. It was also around that time that I developed the habit of stealing. All the name-brand items in the dorm room that belonged to Zhou Qing were stolen by me, so I was shocked when I saw them being worn by the old woman. Actually, on the very first day of university registration, I recognized Zhou Qing. That mole on her left cheek is so noticeable, and she still has that loud voice when she talks, just like when she was little. Lewin was trafficked to the village next to ours and was rescued by Granny Daoni while trying to escape. That incident caused a huge commotion. The neighboring village searched the entire mountain with flashlights, but no one was found. What could possibly bind together a group of people who seemed to have nothing in common? Only kindness, the grace of rebirth, a life-saving grace. 11. The day I killed Daoni, I had just received my university acceptance letter. My mom said she doesn't have money to pay my tuition and told me to figure it out myself. She called me a money-losing burden and said going to college was pointless. Better to start working and earning money early. She repeatedly insisted that when I get married, I must give her a 300,000 yuan bride price, or she won't let me off the hook. Lewin secretly touched my butt and said he could give me 5,000 yuan, and my mom wouldn't find out. I'm smitten. I said we can't do it at home. My mom would kill me if she found out. If you're going, go to the cornfield. To get to my cornfield, you have to pass through a reservoir. Lewin walked ahead, hands in his pockets, whistling smugly. I pulled a pair of gloves from my pocket, put them on, then seized the moment and gave a hard shove. Lewin slid straight into the reservoir. He flailed in the water a few times before sinking beneath the surface. I gave a cold smile, clapped my hands, and prepared to go back for the money. Looking up, I saw that not far ahead, Daoni was holding an EMS of the same color as mine. She stood motionless for a moment, took a few slow steps back, then suddenly turned and ran. I grabbed a brick and chased after him like a madman. At that moment, only one thought flashed through my mind. Daoni saw me kill someone. I can't go to jail. Daoni fled into the cornfield, screaming all the way. Adrenaline rush gave me superhuman strength. I slammed her to the ground, repeatedly striking her body with a brick as if I've done it countless times before. So skillful, yet so satisfying. Finally, I roughly tore open Daoni's skirt, stuffed Lewin's lighter into her mouth, and walked away confidently. At that time, I thought Daoni was already dead. Little did I expect that on the very first day of school, I saw her carrying her grandmother on her back to register. I was so scared that I nearly lost my soul, but Daoni seemed to have lost her memory, treating me just as before, like everything in the cornfield. It was just my own imagination. I've said it before, I'm smart. The moment Zhou Qing and Luyin walked into the dormitory, I sensed an unusual atmosphere in the air. Their body language was so familiar, yet they pretended to be strangers in their words. Soon, I managed to figure out the general idea. Dawn, maybe dead, or perhaps half alive, clinging to life within her grandmother's body, so she had to wear a burial garment and fake her death to survive. Grandma Daoni went to school in Daoni's place, and took the opportunity to seek revenge on me. She gathered Lu Yin and Zhou Qing, who wanted to repay a favor, and created a fake haunting in the dormitory, trying to lure me into voluntarily handing over my birth chart. The most crucial element for soul transference and body snatching is the birth chart. Little did they know, I had guessed long ago that Grandma Daoni wasn't human. Countless mornings and nights following behind them, I saw Grandma Dani's eyes glowing with a green luminescence in the dim light. Like a demon, I've already witnessed the cruelest evil in the world. What ghost could I possibly fear now? 300,000, instantly credited. I cast a disdainful glance at them, trying to mess with me. These city folks are still a bit green. Haven't they heard the saying? Barren mountains and turbulent waters breed fierce folk. I pushed open the dorm room door triumphantly, but my smile instantly froze on my face. Outside, how could it be completely dark outside? I turned around and saw that the girls' dormitory had vanished as well. A bright and soaring chant suddenly flooded my ears from all directions. Ritual. Wasn't the ritual a failure? I covered my ears and knelt blindly in the darkness, my head throbbing as if it were about to burst. Fear was like a stinking shroud, tightly wrapped around me. Zhou Qing's voice came from above. Have you completely forgotten your mother? I sent her a small red packet of 200 yuan, and she immediately forwarded your lunar birthday to me without any delay. Suna, you're far too arrogant. The truth is, we wanted you to believe you had it in the bag, so you'd let your guard down, because what we truly need is just those 3 words from your lips, I do. I looked up in terror and suddenly saw 2 bean-shaped beams of light. Following the light, I saw the dormitory bunk. Above the bunk, a large talisman was pasted, fluttering gently as the Taoist priest's incantation grew lower and more somber. In a flash, I had guessed what it was. Those 2 beams of light were a pair of eyes. I'm trapped in an old woman's body. Despair coiled around my neck like a snake, squeezing the life out of me. When I came to, I was lying on a narrow bed, completely paralyzed. All I could do was desperately roll my eyes, trying to take in more of my surroundings. Daoni crawled out from under the bed, her skin covered in talismans drawn with red ink. Zhou Qing and Luyin were also covered in incantations. Lying on the ground, I was naked, my body covered from forehead to toes with vermilion resurrection spells. The ceiling of the dorm room was hung with soul-calling banners and spirit-ringing bells, clinking softly in the wind. The entire girls' dormitory had unmistakably become an execution ground. The Taoist priest, looking utterly exhausted, gave Zhou Qing a nod and silently slipped out of the dormitory. Zhou Qing and Luyin helped my body up, shouting anxiously, Daoni, wake up, wake up. Daoni also held me, tears streaming down her face. My child, my dear, please wake up. I slowly opened my eyes and called out groggily, Grandma, Grandma. Luyin, Zhou Qing, what brings you two here? What am I? Where am I? Zhou Qing wept with joy. Don't you remember? We promised to go to college together. We're in a dorm room. Luyin held me and burst into tears. Great, great, we did it. I glanced sideways at my sobbing roommates, 2 streaks of murky tears slowly sliding down from the corners of my eyes. Damn it, how could this happen? How could I lose when I'm so smart? How could Dorney take my physical body? I'll kill Daenerys, I'll kill them all. I want to leap up and tear them to pieces, but even with all my strength, I could only manage a feeble tremble. Due to being overly excited, I ended up wetting my pants. The next morning, I was carried on a stretcher by 2 caregivers and taken to the nursing home. Beneath the morning sun, 4 flower-like girls huddled together, laughing and crying through their tears. For the first time, I realized how beautiful my smile could be. It's a shame we'll never get to see it again. I just haven't had a chance to tell my mom yet. I know she's always wanted to have a son with Luwen, so I put birth control pills in their water jug every day. They will never be able to have a son. Only then would I have the chance to continue my studies and escape the clutches of my mother and Luwen. On the morning I left, I put rat poison in the boiling porridge. I wanted to poison my mother, but she pulled out a stack of crumpled bills from under her pillow and stuffed them into my arms without even counting them. Get lost, you little debtor. Find a good man in the future. Don't end up as unlucky as your mother. My nose tingled with emotion, and I poured the porridge Away, my mother glanced at me, a flicker of fear in her eyes, then fled out the door as if for her life, hoe in hand. What a shame, so close yet so far. I always fall short at the last moment. 13. Extra. The Confession of Dao Finglian. I am a living corpse who has lived for 236 years living in disgrace, neither human nor ghost. The heavenly Tao's punishment for my skin changing requires the host's voluntary consent, and they must utter the words I am willing. Truly, the struggles of a corpse's existence are comparable to marriage after all. Only an unlucky soul who no longer wishes to live would willingly hand over their own body. Now, I am called Dao Finglian, an elderly woman with a lame leg. For the sake of my skin-changing project, I took in an infant girl and named her Dao, and I'll wait for the right moment to coax her into saying I do. So, I spared no effort to pamper her, making her fair, soft, and beautiful. Childhood was frail for Anayur, and I had no breast milk, so I had to resort to my secret skill, digging graves everywhere to find burial goods, selling them to buy formula to keep her strong and healthy. I dragged my old bones into the fields to catch loaches for her porridge, and ventured into the mountains to catch snakes for soup. My daughter's hair was thinning, so I swung a pole to knock down walnuts for her, bought black sesame seeds to grind into paste for porridge, and insisted she drink 2 big bowls. I spent all my life savings on food and things for my daughter. Watching her grow day by day fills my heart with joy. Every night, when the warm little girl snuggles in my arms, I ask her, "Sweetie, would you be willing to let Grandma use your body in the future?" She always nods earnestly and answers in her sweet, childish voice, "Grandma, I would." You see, indoctrination starts from a young age. Near has to go to school, and the mountain path is damn long. I'm so worried something might happen to my precious backup body that I escort it with a flashlight every day. Seeing me limp, Near's heart ached so much that tears fell straight from her eyes. She said, "Grandma, I won't go to school anymore. I'll stay home and help you with the work. You don't have to go through all that trouble picking me up and dropping me off." I was so angry I nearly couldn't catch my breath. "What do you know? I work this hard just so you can study well and make it out of these mountains. Reading may not be the only path for girls, but it is certainly the one with the lowest cost and the highest return. I'll sell my soul, dig up graves, and do whatever it takes, my old trade of skinning corpses, to raise my girl." Near no longer dared to mention skipping school, studying with all her might, making me feel deeply heartache. Unfortunately, in rural areas, as girls grow older, those restless men always cast cheap, lecherous glances, so I always carry a gleaming sickle at my waist. "Come any closer and I'll cut your manhood off." Near and Suna from the village are very close, but I always feel Suna is too mature for her age, her eyes hiding far too many secrets. Even, I once suspected she had figured out my identity. After all, I've dug up the graves of her father, her grandfather, her grandmother. I told Anayur to stay away from Suna, but Anayur said Suna was pitiful. I shot her a look. "How could she be more pitiful than you? I literally dug you out of a cornfield." Near buried her head in my arms and said in a muffled voice, "Grandma, thank you for raising me. Yes, I'm just an old woman, and before I knew it, I'd raised my girl all grown up." But it always feels like there's never a good time to change the skin because the girl is too young and skinny as a twig. "Never mind, let's fatten her up first." The girl brought cookies for the nanny. I ate the cookies, so I can't eat her now. 9th grade homework is so hard. I really don't want to do this tedious schoolwork. I'll just wait until my daughter graduates. My daughter got into university. I need to save up some money for her studies. Saving money is the priority. The skin replacement can wait. Once my daughter graduates, gets a job, buys a house, and lives a good life, then I'll happily get that skin replacement, all in one go. I count the days on my fingers, waiting with joyful anticipation day after day, thinking that once Anayur gets into college, and then another 10 years pass, I'll finally make it through that day. My parched heart suddenly began to pound wildly. I limped around without my cane, searching everywhere for my girl. When I found her in the cornfield, the girl was already barely breathing. I've lived for over 200 years, and for the first time, I realized I could let out such a desperate, heart-wrenching scream. Moonlight coldly shines upon the ground. My Near, under the moonlight, slightly opened her eyes, her body covered in dried blood. It was as if she was holding on just to wait for me. My daughter held my hand and murmured, "Gee, Grandma, I'm sorry, I didn't protect my own body." She actually always knew. Tears streamed from my eyes, and my throat instantly erupted in a cry of anguished fury. "Who did this? Anayur, who did this?" Near slowly exhaled 2 words, Suna. "Grandma, you need to be careful of her. Suna screamed wildly while smashing the doll. How dare you look down on me, you're just a bastard, an orphan. I know the old woman is a skin corpse, she's keeping you for your human skin. I'm going to smash you to pieces, so the old hag can never change her skin again. I've grown accustomed to dynastic changes and the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death. I also thought I had long grown accustomed to the inherent evil of human nature and the coldness of the world. Just the name, Suna, sent a bone-chilling shiver down my spine. How could a young girl harbor such malice? Since she ruined my body and harmed my granddaughter, she'll have to repay the debt with her own flesh. I called the other two girls as fate would have it, Dao Finglian turned out to be Zhou Qing's childhood nanny. She broke her leg while saving the young Zhou Qing, and her employer gave her a severance payment before dismissing her. Who would have thought that years later, destiny would bring us together again? By the time I took over Dao Finglian's body, it was much later. Since possession also grants the host's memories, I naturally grew close to Zhou Qing. As for Luyin, she was a young girl who had been trafficked into the mountains. I hid her in the cellar and then secretly helped her escape outside the police car. She and her parents kowtowed frantically towards me, thanking me for my immense kindness. Without it, the young girl's life would have been ruined in this remote mountain village. Although I am a leather corpse, I have always cultivated good karma, and now it's finally time for it to pay off. Zhou Qing spent a fortune to heal Nir's body, but Nir's soul is already incomplete. Even if her life is forcibly prolonged, she would merely be a vegetative patient lying in bed. I can't let my Nir become a vegetable at such a young age. She hasn't even seen the outside world yet, hasn't begun her wonderful life. How can she become a zombie? The human body is like a machine. Once it stops functioning, it begins to decay and rot bit by bit. I expended most of my cultivation to forcibly seize a body, allowing my soul to enter Nir's physical form and maintain the normal operation of her body. I then transferred Nir's soul into my own body, dressed in burial clothes, clinging to life while waiting for the right moment to seize Suna's body. The girls' dormitory building is the most suitable place to perform the soul-seizing ritual. This place is a gathering point for yin energy, filled with vibrant young girls. A continuous, flowing spring of life slowly nourishes Nir's gradually withering soul. Most importantly, Zhou Qing, Lu Yin, and I are willing to offer 10 years of our lifespans as a tribute to Nir. If we succeed, it will kill two birds with one stone. If we fail, I will die from a backlash, and Zhou Qing and Lu Yin will each lose 10 years of their lifespans. We have to take a gamble, bet on Suna's insatiable greed and cunning, and on her money-obsessed mother. Good thing we won. I gently wiped the sweat from Dao Finglian's forehead and slipped Lu Wen's lighter into her mouth. You see, in the end, didn't I still get Nir's body? Isn't this, in its own way, a perfect ending? In the nursing home, everyone praised Dao Finglian for her good fortune, having such a filial granddaughter who visits her every week. She even gives the caregivers red envelopes every single time, making sure they take the best possible care of her grandmother. Whenever someone praises me, Dao Finglian would always get so angry that her eyes bulge out, and her phlegmy throat emits a painful, rasping sound. She knew, of course, that I wasn't here for a friendly visit. I was here to inspect the prison. I had to make sure that the prisoner, Suna, was staying obediently and securely within the physical prison of Dao Finglian. Cannot be born, death cannot. This is the ultimate revenge I, as an old skinless corpse, can ever achieve. Story 2. He politely threw a stack of photos onto my desk and said, think about it, let's cooperate. I took a closer look and found that the photos were all fragments of my husband and my best friend being intimate. I stared at the man in front of me, who was holding a helmet and wearing a racing suit, and said, how do you want to cooperate? As soon as Han Songchen left, my best friend Fong Xiaoyun sent me a WeChat message. Honey, how do I look in this bikini? Then, she sent me a photo. In the photo, she had a good figure and her skin was as white as jade. The sky blue bikini made her even more beautiful. However, her right hand was holding someone, but the specific appearance and figure of that person couldn't be seen. I deliberately asked, you got a boyfriend right after you got divorced? Yeah, I mentioned it to you before. When my ex-husband cheated on me, I found this backup. I helped Fang Xiaoyun with her divorce lawsuit against Han Songchen. I even led the police personally to obtain the video evidence of Han Songchen being caught in the hotel. All of this was to ensure that my best friend would win the case and that the scumbag would get the punishment he deserved. But now, I'm the clown, because the backup my best friend found is my husband, Gucci. In the photo, the ring finger of that hand was still wearing the same couple ring as mine 3 days ago. Fang Xiaoyun said she wanted to go out and relax. She took my arm and acted coquettishly. Xuan Xuan, come with me. it's so lonely to go alone, but I really couldn't spare the time. I happened to have another case to deal with these 2 days. I refused, saying, be good, I'll go with you as soon as I finish my work. At that time, Fang Xiaoyun stared at Guqi, who was cooking for us in the kitchen, in an ambiguous way and said, then let your husband accompany me. I tapped her on the head and said, get out of here. She had always been outspoken and liked to joke, so I didn't pay much attention. Upon hearing this, Guqi was suddenly stunned. Then, he turned around holding the cooking spoon and said with a smile, Xiaoyun, stop joking, I'm really busy with work and don't have the time to amuse you too. Fang Xiaoyun pouted and protested, you two, as a couple, just don't care about me, now that I think about it. She said that on purpose to Guqi. Guqi also doted on her. That night, he told me he had to go on a business trip. It turned out that the two of them had planned to go on a trip together. The next day, Fang Xiaoyun knocked on my door. She hugged me cheerfully, saying, baby, I missed you so much. I endured the nausea and pretended to hug her. With a very light force she noticed something was wrong and pushed me away, asking curiously, what's wrong with you, Shuang Shuang? I pretended to be relaxed and said, it's nothing. She didn't doubt it anymore. Instead, she tugged at the dazzling gold necklace around her neck and said, look, my boyfriend bought this for me. Is it nice? I was stunned and stared at it again and again. Wasn't this the year of the snake limited edition fortune necklace that I had taken a fancy to before? I had mentioned it to Guqi, intentionally or unintentionally, that I wanted to receive it on my birthday, but on my birthday, Guqi used the excuse of having to work overtime at the company and couldn't accompany me on my birthday. The next morning, when he came home, I smiled and stretched out my hands, saying, gift. As he put down his briefcase, he asked in confusion, gift, what gift? I stood there in a daze, thinking he was joking, but he still looked at me blankly. I then realized that he had completely forgotten my birthday, let alone the gold necklace I had mentioned. But now it seems that he didn't forget my birthday, he just didn't want to celebrate it for me. He was just pretending. I smiled absently and then replied, it's nice. Fang Xiaoyun raised the corners of her mouth, showing a victorious posture. In the past, I might not have thought there was anything wrong with it, but now, I know that she did it on purpose. Hey, what are we all doing standing at the door? I don't know. When Guqi stood behind us, I had expected that they would come back today because there was an important dinner party at the Chia family tomorrow, and Guqi had to come back. Since your husband is back, I won't disturb your couple's time together, Fang Xiaoyun said to me, and also gave Guqi a meaningful look. Guqi didn't stop her from leaving. He closed the door and hugged me in his arms. Shuang Shuang, I haven't hugged you for a few days. Why do I feel like you've gained weight? His head was buried in my neck, and his warm breath blew against my ear. I chuckled and pushed him away, saying, I haven't gained weight. Maybe you've hugged a woman who is thinner than me. Guqi froze in place, looking flustered for a moment. Quickly, he grabbed me as I was about to turn away and said, don't say such things. Besides you, who else would I hug? Then, he took out a bag from his pocket and handed it to me, saying, Shuang Shuang, this is the birthday gift I'm making up for you. I took it and opened it to have a look. There was a box in the bag, and the bottom of the box was sticky. When I opened it, it was a gold bean ring with a red string. I noticed that there was a gift mark inside the bag. Presumably, this was a gift given when buying the gold necklace. I disdainfully threw the things on the ground and said, no need. Then, I took out the gold necklace that I had wanted from the bedroom. I casually put it on my hand and said to Guqi indifferently, giving me something that's left over from others and expecting me to be grateful, Guqi, I can afford this thing. Asking you to give it to me was to give you a chance. Guqi's face suddenly turned ugly, but he still refused to admit it and said, stop making trouble. This was bought for you. I know you're not short of money, but this is my thoughtfulness. I looked at the gift label and nodded disdainfully. At the Chia family's dinner party, Guqi and I interlocked our fingers, and he gracefully talked with the guests. You and your wife are truly a perfect match. After all these years, you're still so in love. I'm so envious. That's right. I bet you'll have a baby soon. Everyone was chatting happily, and Guqi echoed, soon, soon. Shuang Shuang and I will still be in love even after another 10 years. I raised the corners of my mouth and looked at the man I had once loved deeply, who was full of lies. My stomach felt as if it was churning. Shuang Shuang, Fang Xiaoyun's voice sounded behind me. I suddenly turned around and saw her waving at me gracefully. She rushed to my side, took my arm, and said happily, baby, I can finally attend your family's dinner party. Logically speaking, those who could attend the Chiao family's dinner party were either rich or noble. There was only one explanation for Feng Xiaoyun's appearance. Gucci had allowed it. Gucci and I looked at each other for 2 seconds. He mumbled, "Why are you looking at me? Isn't Xiaoyun your best friend? Don't you allow her to attend the dinner party?" Before I could speak, Feng Xiaoyun acted coquettishly again and said, "Baby, I went for an interview at Gucci's company yesterday and passed. He said that since I have a good relationship with you, he would bring me here in advance to experience the grandeur of high society. You're not unhappy, are you?" I smiled and said, "Of course not. I'm so proud of my sister for being so amazing." Then, I turned my head and said to Gucci, "Why didn't you tell me in advance that you hired her?" Gucci said, "Didn't I want to give you a surprise?" I nodded thoughtfully. "Just right. I also have a surprise for him." The main purpose of this dinner party was to find a partner for a project, because of the large amount of funds involved. The Chiao family specially organized this dinner party as my husband. Gucci was naturally confident, and the powerful and wealthy people present also flattered him. Seeing that the dinner party was about to start, the person I was waiting for hadn't arrived yet. I was a bit anxious, so I went to look for that person along the corridor. Unexpectedly, when I passed by the stairwell, I heard some strange sounds coming from inside. My hasty steps immediately stopped. This sound. "Once I get this project, I'll take you to Bali for a trip." "No, when are you going to divorce Chia Shuang? I want you to marry me. Just thinking that you have to touch her when you go back at night makes me feel bad." Gucci sneered and said, "You're even getting jealous. If it weren't for my parents being eager to have a grandson, who would want to touch her? She's always like a dead person every time, so boring." It was still exciting last time, when that stupid Chia Shuang was helping me check the surveillance of Han Songchen. The two of us were in the hotel stairwell. The moment I learned the truth, my blood turned ice cold. It was indeed Gucci who accompanied us that day. I was so absorbed in watching the surveillance that I completely forgot that Gucci and Feng Xiaoyun had gone out one after another. My heart ached so much that I couldn't breathe. Just as I was about to push the door open, a hand suddenly grabbed my wrist. "Don't be impulsive. They won't end well." A pleasant voice reached my ears. I looked up, and Han Songchen's sharply defined silhouette was against the light. His warm hand covered the back of my hand. I blushed and pulled my hand away. He said, "Let's go, finish the important thing." I suppressed the anger in my heart and nodded. Gucci adjusted his clothes at the door and then sat down beside me. He explained to me, "I had a bit of a stomachache." I looked ahead and ignored him until Feng Xiaoyun also came back from outside. A minute later, she walked over quickly and sat down on the other side of me, deliberately revealing a clear hickey. She said, "Baby, it's my first time at such an occasion. It's really an eye-opener." I sneered and said, "Well, it really is an eye-opener." She thought she had won a trophy, but she didn't know that the show was yet to come. On the stage, my father read out the names of the companies that came to compete for the project. The first one was the name of Gucci's family. Finally, my father put down the booklet in his hand and said, "This competition is fair and just. Please have the leaders of each company come on stage to give a self-introduction." This confused Gucci and everyone present. They had thought that this was a predetermined quota, and not many people would have prepared in advance. At most, it was just going through the motions. Gucci was thus pushed onto the stage and stumbled as he talked about his plan for the project. Because he was so confident of winning, he couldn't come up with good solutions to many common problems in the project. He also made some jokes, and some people whispered, "Can he really take on this project? Damn, if I were the son-in-law, I could do it too, a man who relies on his wife." I thought he had some real ability. Beads of sweat also appeared on Gucci's forehead. "Okay, let's welcome the next one." Amid the curious gazes of everyone, Han Songchen confidently picked up the microphone and began to talk at length about his plan for the project. 10 minutes later, there was a round of applause from the audience. Everyone already knew who would win the project. During this period, Gucci tugged at my sleeve, frowned, and blamed me. "Chia Shuang, did you deliberately embarrass me? You knew that today's process was different from usual, but you didn't tell me in advance." I spread my hands and said, "Who can you blame if you don't have the ability?" Feng Xiaoyun was stunned as she watched Han Songchen, who used to be unruly, now shining brightly, and she regretted it deeply. She couldn't believe it and grabbed my hand, saying, Shuang, when did Han Songchen become Mr. Han?" I smiled and said, "After you divorced him, he went home to inherit the family property." Feng Xiaoyun said unhappily, "It was you who obtained the surveillance footage and personally helped us get divorced. It's all your fault. You made me lose my good life. I think you're a green tea bitch." After saying that, she picked up a glass of champagne on the table and threw it at my face. I don't know when Han Songchen walked to my side, he pulled me aside, and the champagne missed me and spilled all over the floor. After I stood still, without saying a word, I quickly picked up the champagne and threw it at Feng Xiaoyun, accompanied by her scream of awe. Everyone at the scene looked over. Her hair was wet, she was in a sorry state, and she sat on the ground wailing. She pointed at me and shouted, "This is the daughter of the Qiao family, bullying a woman who has no power or influence." There were many media reporters at the scene. They seized the opportunity and rushed over. They started questioning me without distinguishing right from wrong. "Miss Qiao, do you really hate your best friend that much? Can't we be friends with you if we don't have money? You seem so friendly usually, but I didn't expect you to play such a duplicitous game." Feng Xiaoyun cried pitifully. When all the cameras were on her, she suddenly stopped crying. Then, she said to the camera, "It's all her. She colluded with my ex-husband. I didn't see her true colors until I got divorced. She has already had an affair with my husband." After saying that, she took out her phone and opened a photo. In the photo, I was holding Han Songchen's wrist with one hand and squatting down, not knowing what I was doing anyway. From that angle, it really looked like Han Songchen and I had intimate contact. I thought about it carefully. This was probably the day he came to find me, when we went out of the company to do something together. I sprained my ankle and instinctively grabbed his wrist. I never expected to be photographed. When I was being severely criticized, Han Songchen stood up. He said coldly, "Feng Xiaoyun, haven't you had enough of accusing others first when you're the one at fault? Next, I'll show you what it means to be too clever for your own good." In full view of everyone, Han Songchen put a video on the screen. Before he even clicked to play the video, just by looking at the cover, I knew what he was going to show. I didn't care about anything else. I took 2 steps at a time and rushed onto the stage. Snatching his phone and disconnecting the Bluetooth connection, I shook my head at him and said, "No, if you play this video now, it will be an invasion of someone else's privacy. Moreover, there are too many live streaming devices here. You might even get arrested if things go wrong." My professional ethics compelled me to do so. While everyone was still confused, Gucci panicked. Others might not know what it was, but he knew very well. Feng Xiaoyun stood in front of the stage, haughtily saying, "Play it, Han Songchen, why don't you dare to play it?" Seeing this, Gucci rushed forward and covered her mouth, whispering fiercely in her ear, "Enough, Xiaoyun." He forcefully dragged Feng Xiaoyun out of the hall, and the reporters were blocked by his bodyguards. Han Songchen frowned and asked me, "Just let them go like this?" I smiled bitterly and said, "We can't sacrifice your future for these 2 despicable people, can we?" After hearing this, Han Songchen burst into laughter, almost unable to close his mouth. The corners of his mouth curved into a nice arc, and he said, "You underestimate me, Qiao Shuang." He clicked on the video that hadn't been played on the public screen just now. In the video, Gucci and Feng Xiaoyun were seen holding hands and kissing during their trip to Jeju Island. Since it was nighttime and the visibility was poor, I mistakenly thought it was the video he had taken outside the stairwell just now. I stamped my foot in regret and muttered to myself, "Ah, my damned professional habit." Han Songchen shook his head at me indulgently and said, "I really can't do anything about you." At night, Gucci pushed open the door of the bedroom and pulled me into his arms. His voice was soft, with a hint of flattery. "Shuang Shuang, things aren't as you think. She and I are just friends. Xiaoyun is your best friend, so I agreed to let her join my company. Isn't that to show you some respect?" I smiled but remained silent, staring intently into Gucci's eyes. He felt a chill under my gaze. Then he took out his phone and put Xiaoyun on the blacklist right in front of me. He raised 3 fingers solemnly and said, "I, Gucci, swear to the heavens that I won't do anything to betray my wife." He shook my arm, as if acting coquettishly. "Wife, talk to me, I forgive you." Without hesitation, I casually pushed his hand away. I added, "I'm too tired today, don't touch me, just go to bed quickly." I turned on my side and stopped looking at him. However, from the reflection of the bay window, I saw him smiling triumphantly. I guess he was thinking that I was easy to placate. The next morning, the phone rang. "Hello." I answered the phone in a daze. A very deep and ambiguous male voice came from the other end. "Qiao, get up quickly. I'll take you to City H to have soybean milk and fried dough sticks." Gucci beside me was awakened by our commotion. Hearing the man's voice, he immediately sat up alertly and questioned me. "Who is that, inviting you to breakfast early in the morning?" I got up lazily and started choosing my clothes. Then I casually said to Gucci, "Oh, a friend inviting you to breakfast early in the morning." What kind of breakfast requires going to the neighboring city to eat? Can't you have it at home? Facing his questions, I just felt annoyed. I perfunctorily answered him while quickly changing my clothes. He's not an ordinary friend, he's a partner of the Chow family. After saying that, I heard a rumbling sound downstairs. So I ran downstairs without looking up. When I got into Han Songchen's supercar, Gucci leaned out from the second floor. Put my wife down, damn it. The supercar sped on the highway, and I was touching up my makeup in the car. Han Songchen suddenly said, actually, I didn't cheat when I was with Fang Xiaoyun. I stopped the hand that was about to stick on my false eyelashes and said, is this a scumbag's redemption story? He was amused by my words and explained, that woman is the secretary of my client. I investigated her privately. She had contact with Fang Xiaoyun. Shortly after my divorce, I found that she frequently entered high-end clubs, so I vaguely suspected that Fang Xiaoyun gave her a lot of money. After all, she got a lot of money from me. Han Songchen was right. The main purpose of my helping Fang Xiaoyun with the lawsuit was to get his money. I asked him, so you didn't have anything happen with that woman holding the steering wheel? He looked a bit confused and said, actually, I'm not sure. Because I was really dizzy that day, I don't know exactly what happened. Then I realized that it was very likely that Fang Xiaoyun had set a trap. The purpose was to empty all of Han Songchen's possessions and even make him lose his reputation. Fang Xiaoyun didn't expect that Han Songchen had hidden this from her. His parents were well-known figures in Beijing, but they were very low-key. While I was thinking, Han Songchen's phone rang. I accidentally caught a glimpse that it was from Fang Xiaoyun. Han Songchen ignored it. It wasn't until the phone rang 3 times that I said, answer it and see what she has to say. Then he pressed the answer button and turned on the speakerphone. What is it, Aiken? I'm pregnant. Can you come and pick me up? At the door of Fang Xiaoyun's villa, when she saw Han Songchen getting out of the sports car, she rushed over in a hurry and put her arms around his neck. Husband, I regret it. Can you give me another chance? Her shoulders were twitching, and her eyes were incredibly red. For the sake of caution, Han Songchen insisted on taking her to the hospital for an examination. She was unyielding and held up the examination form in her hand, saying, I've already had an examination, don't you trust me? Han Songchen smiled softly, walked beside the supercar, and said to me, sorry, the car can only seat 2 people, I'm sorry to trouble you. I sensibly got out of the car. Fang Xiaoyun incredulously stepped forward and raised her hand, you fox, it's all your fault that I got divorced. I grabbed her wrist and squeezed out through my teeth, Fang Xiaoyun, don't push your luck. After saying that, I walked outside, hailed a taxi, and left. On the way back to the law firm, I looked at my phone. Gucci had called me dozens of times and sent countless messages. What's the relationship between you and Han Songchen? If you go, don't come back. You're such a fickle woman, wife. I was a bit harsh, please come back. While flipping through the chat records, lawyer Liu, who had the best relationship with me in the law firm, called me, hello, lawyer Chow, something terrible has happened. When I rushed to the law firm, I found that the company's sign had been smashed. There were also several glaring red words sprayed on the wall. Chow Shuang is a mistress who destroys other people's marriages. She deserves to die. People around were pointing fingers at me. Only lawyer Liu stepped forward to comfort me. Don't listen to those gossips. I know best what kind of person you are. I've always kept my personal life and work separate, so the people in the company didn't know that I was the daughter of the richest man in the city. I was very touched that lawyer Liu could be so close to me. Thank you, lawyer Liu. She took out 2 bottles of white spray paint from her bag and smiled, saying, come on, let's wipe them off. I frowned, but in the end, I did as she said. After all, I had caused trouble for the company. Seeing that I was in a bad mood, lawyer Liu insisted on taking me for a few drinks. The colorful lights flickered, shining on the lonely people. Lawyer Liu went to the restroom and didn't come out for several minutes. Sorry for keeping you waiting. I had a bit of diarrhea today. She apologized and poured me a glass of wine. I took a couple of sips, and my head started to feel dizzy. I wanted to go to the restroom to wash my face and sober up. On the way, I caught a glimpse of 2 familiar faces, Fang Xiaoyun and the mistress of Han Songchen. At that time they looked at me with smiles, resting their chins on their hands without any scruples. The next second, my eyes went black, and I lost consciousness. When I woke up, the sunlight shone through the gap in the black curtains onto my eyelids. I opened my eyes slightly, and a warmth came from beside me. It was a man's arm. Then, the door was pushed open with a bang, and someone shouted loudly, Chow Shuang, you seduced my man. I got up abruptly, and several people holding phones rushed in from outside. Everyone, come and take a look, lawyer Xiao Shuang has no moral integrity and is having an affair while married, friends in the live broadcast room, this is the top lawyer in our eyes, in fact, she's just a slut. I heard that she stole her best friend's husband and forced them to divorce. Fang Xiaoyun was in the lead. She crossed her arms over her chest and smiled triumphantly. The man beside me was sleeping soundly, lying on his side with his face covered by the quilt. I tightly held the corner of the quilt, trying my best not to be photographed. I trembled in fear and said, Fang Xiaoyun, you guys, what you're doing is illegal. I even regarded you as my sister, and I helped you with the lawsuit for free, helping you take away the scumbag's property. Is this how you repay me? She didn't show any guilt for lying and sneered, my dear best friend, if I had known that Han Songchen's parents were powerful, I would never have divorced him. As for you, you just couldn't stand to see me doing well. When Gucci chose you between the two of us, you should have been content, but after you got married, you always showed off with those high-end goods, saying that you bought too many and would give them to me. Weren't you just showing off your superiority? Your family is so wealthy, but you still pretend to be poor outside. Your colleagues don't even know your identity. If it weren't for me, lawyer Lu would still be kept in the dark by you. It turned out that Fang Xiaoyun had always held a grudge against me. Gucci and my family were a good match in terms of social status, and I had truly loved him. She always thought that my family background dominated my relationship with Gucci. I was afraid that Fang Xiaoyun wouldn't have a good life, so I kept looking for suitable people to introduce to her. In the end, she found Han Songchen, the racing driver, by herself. She often told me how excellent her husband was and how rich he was. I smiled brightly, took her hand, and said, Yun Yun, as long as you're happy. Then I turned around and gave her bags and jewelry worth tens of thousands of yuan. I didn't expect that she thought I was showing off. Lawyer Lu adjusted her glasses frame and raised her phone with a smile, saying, Lawyer Qiao, you've ruined me. I was confused and looked at her blankly. She laughed maniacally. Back then, we joined the company together. Your academic qualifications were not as good as mine, and you took on fewer cases than me. You weren't even among those who worked overtime. But what happened? A trace of sadness flashed in Lawyer Lu's eyes. But you have a wealthy family, great power, and are good at speaking. That's why you won Mr. Pay's favor and were given so many major cases. Are people like us, who have no family background, just meant to be the stepping stones for your promotion? She pointed at Fang Xiaoyun resentfully and said, if it weren't for Xiaoyun, I would still be kept in the dark. I was wondering why I couldn't catch up with you no matter how hard I tried. It turns out that you're the daughter of the richest man. The world is so unfair. After listening to her accusations, I just felt a pang of pain in my heart. Over the years, I haven't had an easy life. Although I don't have to worry about food and clothing, I also have my own ideals and ambitions. I only take on major and important cases and have never lost a case. That's why I became famous. Normally, I help those poor victims who can't afford a lawyer with their lawsuits. I often stay up late, memorize legal provisions, or watch the trial processes of some cases, but I've never been showy and have always been low-key. However, Lawyer Lu misunderstood me and thought that I never worked overtime and didn't work hard. A satisfied smile appeared on Lawyer Lu's face. She stepped forward and grabbed the corner of the quilt. However, today, you will fall from your pedestal. She pulled the quilt away, and the man beside me was revealed. Everyone was stunned. Gucci was hugging me. Outside the door, there was the sound of applause. What a frame-up! Everyone turned around in unison. Han Songchen, dressed in a suit, was clapping and cheering. Fang Xiaoyun unconsciously took 2 steps back, covered her mouth, and stammered, You shouldn't be in Xiao Shuang's bed. The corners of my mouth curved slightly. I picked up the sheer coat beside me and put it on. I lowered my eyes and woke up Gucci, who was still sleeping soundly. He opened his eyes sleepily the moment he saw Fang Xiaoyun. His pupils suddenly shrank, and he sat up from the bed. Since everyone is here, let's make things clear. I turned my head and said to the camera, Gucci and Fang Xiaoyun wanted to join forces to push me and Han Songchen to the forefront of public opinion. During the time I was helping Fang Xiaoyun with the lawsuit, she met Lawyer Lu, and the two of them hit it off and designed this trap. How did I find out that Lawyer Lu was acting strangely? When she took out 2 bottles of white latex paint, I clearly saw that there was a 3rd bottle of red paint still in her bag. Later, Fang Xiaoyun brought Han Songchen to the hotel, saying that she wanted to get back together with him. Han Songchen pretended to agree and came to the hotel. Fang Xiaoyun put a sleeping pill in his wine glass. He pretended to drink it and then pretended to be asleep, and she carried him to the bed. Then, She and Han Sungchen's mistress went to the bar to meet lawyer Liu. They happened to see that I was also out of my mind after drinking, and they brought me to Han Sungchen's room. That's right, actually, I didn't drink the drugged wine either. I called Gucci and told him that the project my dad gave to Han Sungchen could be his, and he came quickly. So, this is the scene you see now. Fang Xian slumped to the ground, shaking her head and muttering, "No, it's impossible. How could this plan have leaked out?" I smiled and said, "Xian, no matter how much you calculated, you never expected that the Gucci who said he loved you is much more realistic than you, right?" I turned my head and looked at the man on the bed whom I had once loved desperately. My heart was filled with bitterness. Gucci's phone password had never been changed. On the night he begged me to forgive him, I opened his phone for the first time. I took Fang Xian out of the blacklist and I saw their chat records. "Gucci, I've come up with a way to make Qiao Shuang lose her reputation completely, so that you can divorce her. Justifiably, just let her sleep in the same bed as my ex-husband. I'll find someone to do a live broadcast and make them never recover." "Gucci, are you crazy? Qiao Shuang is my wife, and I won't divorce her." "Fang Xian, don't lie to me." "Okay, Gucci, my hands are shaking now. You were the one who told me to get divorced. You said you would marry me. Now I have nothing. I really only have you left." "Gucci, damn it. Stop pestering me. It's your ex-husband who caused me to lose the project that was already in my hands. Do you know how much money I lost?" "Fang Xian, that's why I said let them both lose their reputations." "Gucci, get lost." Upon learning the truth, Fang Xian's legs went weak, and she slumped to the ground. Tears streamed down her face, making her look pitiful. She cried and shouted at Gucci, questioning him, "Did you really never love me even for a single day? Were all the years we spent together fake?" Gucci turned his face away, not daring to look at her, and said, "I never loved you. Sleeping with you was just for the thrill. Men are much more realistic than women." Fang Xian stood up reluctantly and roared, "No, it's impossible. You said you loved me." After saying that, with overwhelming hatred in her eyes, she turned her head and looked at me. Almost in an instant, she picked up a vase from the hotel and threw it to the ground. The vase shattered instantly, and the water in it splashed everywhere, causing the scene to be in chaos for a while. She picked up a piece of the fragment, shouting and rushing towards me, "Since he doesn't love me, you won't be able to get his love either. No, be careful." Two men shouted simultaneously. The moment the fragment fell, I instinctively closed my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I saw blood spreading on the ground. I looked up and met Han Songchen's gaze. He covered his wound and asked me cautiously, "Are you okay?" Tears suddenly filled my eyes, and my fingers trembled as I stroked the injured area. The warm blood kept flowing, and I was crying so hard that I couldn't speak. "Call an ambulance, hurry, call an ambulance." Everyone was stunned with fear, including the netizens in the live broadcast room. At this time, Gucci had already controlled the crazy Fang Xian. The others were also in a hurry to call 120 and 110. A month later, outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, "Can't we not get a divorce, Shuang Shuang?" Gucci's broad hand gripped my slender wrist. "No, I remember when you proposed to me, I asked you a question. Did you say that you would only love me for the rest of your life?" "What did you say?" He paused for a moment and remembered that year when he firmly said to me, "Who else could I love if I don't love you? You are the only one I love in my life." But Gucci's life of love for me was a bit short, only 3 years. He felt a bit melancholy, and more than that, he was regretful. His eyes suddenly turned red, and he sobbed, "I'm sorry, Qiao Shuang, I betrayed you, and I deserve to be in this situation today." I gently pushed his hand away, with a look of melancholy on my face. "The boy who brought me breakfast every day in high school, fetched me hot water, and was the first to stand up for me when I was bullied had long since drifted away. The most memorable time was after he confessed to me and I agreed. He was more than 1,000 kilometers away, couldn't get a ticket, but still stood for more than 10 hours and came to the city where I was studying to celebrate my birthday. I believe there is true love in this world, but true love can change in an instant. Forget it, Gucci, our story ends here." I resolutely stepped into the Civil Affairs Bureau. He slowly followed me in his extremely reluctant state. We got the divorce certificate. We came out of the Civil Affairs Bureau together. He looked at the foggy and rainy day and finally burst into tears, pulling me into his arms. "I can't live without you, Qiao Shuang." Just then, a supercar roared over and stopped beside us. Gucci immediately held back his tears. When I saw that it was Han Songchen, a smile immediately appeared on my face, and I ran towards him, saying, "I thought you weren't coming." then let your husband accompany me, Han Songchen said in a sarcastic tone amidst Gucci's endless regret. I got into someone else's car, let's go, my dad is still waiting for us at home. During this period, my dad had been keeping a close eye on the project managed by Han Songchen. Compared with the projects that Gucci had been in charge of before, Han Songchen was really dedicated. Just looking at the profits, they had increased several times compared to before. At the dinner table, my dad couldn't stop smiling and praised him as a young talent. Looking back, my dad had never looked at Gucci directly and always felt unhappy. At first, I was determined to marry Gucci, and my dad could only go along with my wishes. Now that we have settled things with the Gu family, our family business has been getting better and better. During the meal, Han Songchen mentioned, Uncle Chiao, I heard that you liked playing with supercars when you were young. How about we have a race? I immediately stopped him and said, my dad is getting old, don't drag him into this nonsense. My dad wasn't happy when he heard this and said, you little girl, what are you talking about? How am I old? Let's race, let's do it today, boy, I'll show you that Xuan's dad is never someone who will admit defeat. He even stamped his foot in a hurry, making our whole family burst into laughter. That night, my mom and I were at the finish line, and we waited for my dad and Han Songchen one after another. Han Songchen got out of the driver's seat, took off his helmet, clasped his fists together, and kept praising, Uncle, you're so skilled, we younger generations really need to learn from you. My dad also got out of the car, he was very pleased to hear the praise. He also said modestly, not at all, the younger generation is formidable, the younger generation is formidable. My dad immediately commanded me, saying, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and pass some water to Xiao Han and wipe his sweat. Han Songchen changed his words according to the situation and said, thank you, Dad. The end.